Our thanks to me in that last segment. That was a lot of me. Need more Kyle. Welcome into the drive.
That's one of those topics that, like, you are much more... Like, I watch a ton of Kings games. I follow Kings fans on Twitter. I have a general sense of what's going on. But in an instance like that, you're much more connected with the fan base than I am. So you know much more of the emotion that goes into that.
It's just a lot of... it's unfortunate. And part of the misfortune is having to deal with about a news cycle now where stuff like this happens. And let me clean up some of these text lines.
One of the things I want to get away from real quick is blaming Chris Haynes.
Yeah, don't blame Chris Haynes.
Like he didn't go make this up. He didn't go looking for this story. He's doing his job. That's all. So let's get away from that's it. I saw people saying really mean things about Chris Haynes, like this is his fault. It's his job to protect the Kings.
The only issue, and I'm trying to come up with an issue with the article. The only thing I would have liked to have seen in this case would be an attempt to ask Vlade Divac directly for comment before publishing the article.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's the only thing that I'll call him on a little bit, because Vlade is the GM, and right. You would see when asked for comment, Vlade Divac's refusal was unreachable.
But then, I mean, I'm not certain you can do that, because then you're eliminating one person who it is.
Yeah,
you're gonna burn your source.
No. Let's go to the text line here from the 916. This is what I'm talking about. Jay Billis was right. Dysfunction. Here goes Dave and Grant trying to play it off like it's normal and this stuff happens to every team. Well, it's normal and stuff like this happens to every team.
Yeah, look what happened to Mark Jackson.
If you want to play, thank you. But if you want to play the truth of that whole situation, the issue with Jay Billis, friend, was when Jay Billis said the locker room was dysfunctional.
Can we, real quick, friend of the show, Jay Billis.
Thank
I think
you.
we can say that.
Yeah. I would say acquaintance of the show. Remember, Jay himself said we weren't friends.
Oh, that's a person the show knows.
Person the show is familiar with. Jay Billis, familiar with the way the show thinks.
Source is somewhat close to the drive.
Yeah, and when you say locker room again, that whole thing was a semantic argument with Jay Billis.
Yes.
Nothing to do with the front office. From the 916, could you address the use of the word denial by certain media folks? The Kings didn't deny it at all, yet a few folks used the term. It's irresponsible, and in our home with two journalists, we've been taught to call it a lie. That's from Marty from Philly.
Love Marty.
Really
good softball player.
He's all right. Marty, I don't know what to say. Here's what the statement was from Vlade Divac. He said, quote, Dave has our full support and confidence. Thank you, Vlade. I support you too. Dave has our full support and confidence. We continue to work together to develop our young core and compete. Okay, so are we splitting hairs here? Did Vlade Divac come out and say, we're not firing him? No. So is that a denial? Well, when the headline says this could lead to his dismissal, and about 20 minutes later, the team puts out a statement of support. What do you want Vlade to come out and say, we're not firing Dave Yeager? So how's he going to put that? We're not firing Dave Yeager. Whatever. We're not firing Dave Yeager this season. Oh, you're not. Well, what if Dave goes 0-25?
Right.
You know, what do you when Vlade, and I've seen a lot of people bring this up about the DeMarcus Cousins trade when he said we're not trading DeMarcus Cousins. And you're talking to a guy, again, biggest DeMarcus Cousins fan in the city. I don't have a problem when GMs don't tell the truth about trading players. In fact, I encourage it.
It's called leverage.
It's called leverage. It's called I don't care if they're lying to everybody if it helps them get a better deal. What are you going to say? We're trading DeMarcus Cousins. Or do you and look at what happened, by the way. And this is the fundamental issue with people calling Vlade out on that. I can call Vlade out on a lot of stuff. But guys, you can't say, well, Vlade said he wasn't going to trade DeMarcus Cousins, and then he did, and that's a lie. And then turn around and go, well, Vlade said he had a better deal 2 days ago. or then turn around and get on Coach Carl, because remember when Coach Carl said everybody's tradable? Nobody's untradeable. Remember when he said that? Remember the craziness it caused? So do you really want to repeat that? Is Vlade really supposed to then say to Mark Stein, everybody's tradable? No, of course not. You just saw what happened the year prior. The things people nitpick. There are plenty of things to rip on Vlade or the organization for over the years. That when a GM doesn't come out and say, well, we're thinking about trading a guy, I'm really okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. Because the truth of the matter is, if you ask every GM, what we talked about it 2 weeks ago, Kyle, everybody's tradable. Maybe except for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Everybody's tradable.
Yeah,
throw in 3 or 4 more guys. Everybody's tradable.
Right. We have this discussion all the time, and there's semantics that go into it. But for the most part, with a few exceptions that prove the rule, everybody's tradable.
So Marty has been, I've seen Marty on social media, and I've seen a lot of other people, a couple other people do this, where they're parsing like, well, that wasn't really a denial. Well, the story came out, and 20 minutes freaking later, during a basketball game, by the way, the team gets Vlade from Maui, who's in Hawaii for the Maui Invitational.
Right.
Which, by the way, isn't it funny how, never mind. Just seems Vlade's out of town when, Vlade seems to be out of town
Interesting.
a lot when these things go down. Anyways. So, I'm just saying, stop. Sometimes you parse a little too much. Sometimes you play semantics a little too much.
Yeah. Don't overthink it.
That's about as big a finger quotes denial as you're going to get. I don't think the team should have I do not think the team should have put out an official statement. I wouldn't have handled it like that. I would have had Sam Amick or Mark Spears or somebody. I would have had a team official say, hey, Vlade's going to call you in a couple minutes. And then have Vlade do a 2-sentence to a reporter. Yeah, that's garbage. I don't know where that came from, but there's nothing to it. That's your statement. I'm not a huge fan of official team statements for stuff like this because too many fans say that's the kiss of death.
Right.
It's not the kiss of death. Dave Yeager could.
Vlade should have called the drive.
Yes.
In my opinion.
You know who he should have called?
339-1140.
Should have called Mitch in New Jersey. Hey, Mitch.
I couldn't agree more.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Mitch.
I'm sorry. Hi.
Mitch.
How are we doing? Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, poor Mitch.
Sorry.
Mitch has been holding for like an hour.
Hey.
Mitch, are you really not there?
Wait,
I hear you guys.
You
Happy
can't hear him?
Thanksgiving.
Oh, no, I can't hear him.
Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go.
Well,
All right,
that must have sounded funny to
bad.
everybody.
Okay, we got it.
Yeah, it wasn't in my ears. I'm sorry, Mitch. Go ahead.
Sorry, you're new at the job.
Yes, I'm very new at the job.
Well, happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.
You're welcome. Anytime. First with the Kings, I think De'Aaron Fox might be the top 3 Kentucky player in the last 10 years.
De'Aaron Fox, yes, sir. Mitch was learning from last week.
I know, it hit me, I think, over the weekend. Damn, no wonder we're talking about DeAndre.
What did you think?
Mitch are the best.
We got lost in that, though. What did you say about Fox right there?
I said, it hit me over the weekend. It says, wait a minute, his first name is De'Aaron. That was a joke. I missed the punchline last week when you were doing all the DeAndre.
Gotcha.
You said he's going to be the best player from Kentucky to come out?
In the last 10 years, I say top 3. You got to give it to Anthony Davis, and I think Bledsoe. Some of these one-and-dones, they really haven't panned out. They've just been pretty good, average. I mean, Noel, the guy with the Sixers, he hasn't panned out. There's quite a few that haven't panned out from Kentucky, and they that program is legit. No money on the table. Not with that coach running the show. No problem. It's all legit, just like Coach K. And with the Raiders, how can you get this wrong? All you had to do, I want to see them draft Nick Bosa. Have the Bosa in the same division. Keep Derek Carr, and get some defensive weapons too with the other number 1 picks, high picks they're going to have. But I want to see Bosa. They had no business winning over the weekend.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree.
They may not get a chance to pick Nick Bosa though, because if the Niners are picking
that's
first,
the problem.
I imagine that's.
I don't think Nick Bosa has fallen It's a third.
Yeah, unless that ab injury is something really, really bad that's going to scare teams off, but I don't foresee that being the case. Anthony Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Eric Bledsoe.
That really stuck with you, Eric Bledsoe, huh? I don't know. Can you think of anybody else from Kentucky that might be better than Bledsoe?
You know.
Yeah. You can't.
I can't. I got nothing.
How
Cause
about-
in this in this environment, we're radio guys. DeMarcus as hot takers.
So you're making a slide joke about DeMarcus
Yeah, DeMarcus Cousins
Cousins.
is way better than
Can I make a slide joke about maybe somebody else better? It's a hint.
Kyle Madson.
No.
No, Karl Anthony Towns.
There
of
you
course.
go.
Yeah. I think Karl Anthony Towns is probably better.
What do you say? Quacky, quacky. Quick quack. Quacky. Ducky, ducky. Something, something.
Trucky, ducky, quack, quack.
That's what I'm talking about. Should we worry about Derek Carr and John Gruden yelling at each other?
Nah. No, I think what they both said after the game was pretty accurate. A head coach and a quarterback getting into it is not a rare thing. Tempers boil over, and you want them to. You would expect them to. If they just kind of plodded back to the sideline and went, oh, well, at least they're both competitive still. They both still want to win.
Do sources say that if Carr and Gruden keep getting into it, it could lead to Carr's eventual dismissal from the Raiders?
I've not heard that.
Well, we don't have highlights of the game-winning field goal, but we have multiple comments from them after the game. Here's John Gruden being nice to Derek Carr.
We had a man-to-man situation, and he went for the big play, and we had a mild disagreement. But you know what? That's part of this business. We're going to have times where we clash a little bit. We're also very supportive of one another, and I'm really proud of him. He's been through a lot this year, and I'm glad he's our quarterback.
And here's Derek Carr being nice to John Gruden.
We're both very fiery, both very competitive. Minor disagreement on something. And the beautiful thing is when we do that, it's never like a demeaning thing or pointing a finger. It's just we're both yelling the same kind of thing almost, And let's just, all right, well, let's fix it, that kind of a deal, All
right, a couple things here. Here's, Jesus, Matt George, what is wrong with you? I just looked over. Matt George is in the other room doing something, and
That's just his face.
But it's something with his hair or something. He looks like Matt George, like on an island for a few weeks. Like if Matt George was, this doesn't work for anyone but the video feeders, but Matt had his glasses off. He's got his hair in his face. He's got this beard going. It's like Matt George before and after marriage. To those texting, by the way, the Matt George Twitter takeover will likely happen later this week. It was going to be for the Memphis game, but then I got the sickness, so wasn't able to pull that one off. Here's Jerry Jones talking about how important the Thanksgiving game is for the Dallas Cowboys.
Now we've got a big one against as big a rivalry as there is in sport. We don't always aren't playing for a title, but to some degree we're playing for it out here Thanksgiving Day.
Jerry Jones says at some point, in some ways, the Cowboys are playing for the title this Thursday in one of the biggest rivalries in sport. That's pretty, Redskins, Cowboys, one of the biggest rivalries in sport. I guess that's okay. I don't want to pick that apart. I'm fine with that.
I think it probably was at one point.
Yeah.
But Kirk Cousins not Kirk Cousins, but Colt McCoy against Dak Prescott isn't quite doing it for me.
Jerry Jones said today that if he was going to sell the Dallas Cowboys, he would not take less than $10 billion. I want to be fair to Jerry. It's so fun to pick on him. But he said, I wouldn't even do it for $10 billion. Like whatever I would
That's
get
one
in,
of
in return, I'm not interested in that.
There's sentimental value tied to it.
Right.
That's one of those things on American Pickers when they're like, I'll give you $400 for this. And they're like, oh, that was my grandfather's that he gave to me back in 1926. I can't part with that for anything less than $4.6 billion. And they're like, it's worth $600. We can't give you that.
I remember that.
And then Mike and Frank go, sometimes the sentimental value.
I remember that one. That was the one where they going to sell the thing to the deal.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad you follow that show as well.
It's like American Pickers. That's
such a good show. Great show to binge.
Alex Smith snapped his leg, fibula and tibia. Kyle, interesting note about this game.
Oh?
And about that injury.
I do love interesting notes.
Now, you probably didn't know this.
Okay.
But that's why.
Yeah, that's why you bring the facts.
Yeah, you're not going to get this with Damian Barling.
No.
Filling in.
More like lame me and Barling.
Wow, shade thrown.
Got him.
Alex Smith suffered. Joe Theismann tweeted out that the leg injury looked the same as his leg injury that he suffered on Monday Night Football when Lawrence Taylor sacked him.
Joe Theismann's injury was so bad that Lawrence Taylor, the meanest dude of all time, signaled for help.
Yeah.
This guy's leg just snapped.
Not only did Theismann and Smith play for the same team, the Washington Redskins.
Weird.
But the injuries happened 33 years to the day apart.
No way.
Did you know that those injuries happened 33 years to the day apart?
No way. That's the first time I'm hearing of this shocking information.
There are 54 games in NFL history that have ended with the score of 23-21. Up until the Raider and Cardinal final, the only I want to say this right.
Do you want me to do it since I tweeted it?
Yeah, please.
So there were 53 games with a 23-21 final. 3 of them had come on November 18th, and Washington was involved in all 3 of those games.
All 3.
Now 3 of the 4 because the Raiders screwed it up.
23-21, obviously the final in the game yesterday where Alex Smith broke his leg. 23-21, also the final in the game Joe Theismann.
The difference is that Washington won the game Theismann.
So what, Kyle? Stop stepping on it. The score was 23-21. Show me the lie.
There's no lie, Dave. They're saying the wins and losses were different. That's all.
Well, actually, Dave.
I didn't. Well, actually, I was just saying.
Just adding a little context.
Not even adding context.
Washington won the one game, they lost the other game. American Pickers. From the 916, why is Kyle backwards on the video stream? That's also in real life.
Yeah, that's just how I was born. I buy all my hats backwards. My wonderful Jiffy Lube mic sock is backwards.
We've been asked this many times because on the split screen, in order to show Kyle and I facing each other, not facing away from each other, they have to invert Kyle's video feed, which is why you see everything inverted. What I think should happen.
We're about to see what it'll look like on inverted. It looks super weird.
I think you should actually start buying clothes with inverted logos.
That's my whiteboard I write inverted.
Oh, you do? That's right. You write it backwards. Inverted, whatever it is. So for those of you watching on the video feed, we'll show you in a second. Hey, what does that say? Evad, Ekil, Erom, ML. Or Dave, more like lame. Oh, I see. You inverted it. I was wondering why the question mark went first. At first I thought, are you writing something in Spanish? You can check everything out.
Okay, hey, here's what it looks like if I'm not inverted.
All right, if Kyle wasn't inverted,
find the video at KHTK.com.
Go to KHTK.com.
You can find video recaps on YouTube
right
after the show.
Then that is what it would look like. I mean, I'm looking at her monitor right now, and Eunice's monitor.
It looks weird.
It does look a little bit weird.
It looks like we're talking to.
So if we're talking to each other, that I'm facing to the right and Kyle is facing to the right on the screen. But everything's not inverted. And actually, Kyle, I don't like this because it just looks like I'm talking to you in the back of your head.
Yeah. Hey, what if I do this now? Hang on.
That's how it should be, Kyle. Face away from the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
And then you'd be facing directly to me.
Yeah, no doubt.
Do you think there's a way we could do this? We've lost all our audio listeners now. Do you think there's a way we could do this to where we could each sneak up right to the split screen line? It would look like we were kissing.
Ew.
Like we have to somehow figure
Gross.
out where the line is.
I don't want to kiss you for real or for fake.
Why? Because I've been sick?
No, because you smoke.
Wow. Oh, so you're saying if I didn't smoke,
Yeah.
you would
then
be
I'd
perfectly
in.
fine with
Yeah.
on-air kissing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we've lost all our video watchers.
Let's get to some random sound just to finish out the segment. One more thing here. Steve Kerr says the Warriors are now playing in the real NBA.
We've had, such a charmed existence the last 4 seasons. So, yeah, of course, this is the toughest stretch we've been in. But this is the real NBA. We haven't been in the real NBA the last few years. We've been in this this dream, and so now we're faced with real adversity, and got to get out of it ourselves.
No, we're in the real NBA.
Doug Christie has guys.
Hey, yes, he does. Actually, I should be fair to Steve Kerr. He was actually saying, "Don't cry for us. We've had a charmed existence."
And he's right. Like all the stuff that's gone right for Golden State over the last 4 years, like health wise and just bounces of the ball and other teams' health, they've gotten every just ridiculously good break to go their way, and they're finally facing some real adversity.
We haven't even gotten into it today because we've had so much other stuff, but tomorrow we've had a few days that I was out. We got to get back into the whole Kevin Durant, Draymond Green fallout and all the drama there.
And Draymond Green getting days off for his toe.
Yeah, for his toe. We'll take a break from the 916. Great radio, noobs. Oh, watch the video cast. What do you want from me? You're missing out. We'll take this break. Hey, when we come back, we'll run off sports real quick. Started out the show by thanking so many of you for helping out last week with the first of the Do One Thing caravans up to Chico in the Paradise area. Bryan May is our dear friend, formerly of ABC 10. You'll remember Bryan May, especially during the fight for the Kings, was so fantastic in the coverage over there. Really the best coverage, I thought. Along with Fox 40 in the city of the fight for the team. Bryan now is the public information officer for the governor's office of emergency services, the OES. He's going to join us next. Bryan has been on the ground for a while, and we're just going to talk about the situation up there, where it's at, and how you guys have been helping so much. So off sports here for a second. It's Thanksgiving week, and this is something that affects everybody. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk to Bryan, who we haven't visited with in a while, and then we'll finish up the show. Last half hour, Sports 1140 KHTK.
Trucky, ducky, quack, quack.
That's right.
This is Kyle Madson with your top stories on Sports 1140. Hey, the Kings lost a pair of road games over the weekend, but they're back in the friendly confines of the Golden One Center tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll have coverage right here on Sports 1140, as we do with all Kings games. Game night begins at 5:30. Kings Live is at 6:30, and then tip-off is set for 7 o'clock. The Raiders got their second win of the season yesterday as well, a 23-21 win over the Cardinals down in the desert. It was kicker Daniel Carson hitting a 35-yard field goal as time expired that secured the win for the Silver and Black. It's 8:31. Time to visit MaidaChevy.com and see who's made a great deal at Maida.
Here we go. The drive continues now.
The Baltimore Ravens say offensive lineman Marshall Yanda did not spit on Vontaze Burfict during Sunday's game. Burfict tackled Alex Collins. A minor scuffle ensued involving several players. Video showed Yanda appearing to spit as Burfict was lying on the ground after the play, and Burfict had no apparent reaction when contacted Monday by ESPN Ravens spokesman, said he didn't spit on anyone. I certainly hope if he did spit on Vontaze Burfict that Burfict won't be missing multiple games due to the spitting. I hope that Burfict will be able to recover from the dirty, dirty play levied upon him. Remember when we did an entire segment on things that were non-lethal that we wanted to happen to Vontaze Burfict? And I still think my favorite one was somebody hoping that Vontaze Burfict steps on Legos every morning for the rest of his life. Sorry, I don't feel bad. I shouldn't root for somebody to get spat upon. But I wouldn't mind if Vontaze Burfict was led through a town square like in Game of Thrones. Shame. Shame. Shame, Vontaze. You dirty, dirty player. We're going to talk to Bryan May in a second with the Office of Emergency Services and formerly at ABC 10. We're going to talk to him, and then I want to talk, hopefully we have time today, Stony Brook University. Hey, Stony Brook. Put out a study basically saying that NBA players, when they tweet late at night, don't do as well the next day as they do when they don't tweet late at night. It's an actual study associating late night tweeting and next day game performance amongst NBA players. I have issues with this study, but I'm not smart too. So, Public Information Officer for the Office of Emergency Services here in California. That is got to be a made-up title, but hey, we love him anyways. You guys probably all know him, formerly of ABC 10. You knew him during the whole fight for the Kings, and for so many years being on our television airwaves as just a wonderfully good-looking, ravishingly talented sports reporter. The one, the only, Bryan May. Hello, Bryan.
Well, good morning, Dave. How are you? Best introduction ever.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, that's a pretty big title you got there, pal.
It's made up, but it's on a business card, so I'll take it.
You're actually doing things that matter now, which is great. But are you still able to keep up in the sports world?
I am. As luck would have it, I sit right across from a guy named Jonathan Goodell, who worked at the Elk Grove Citizen, was a high school sports reporter there. So he and I still talk sports constantly. He's a Rockies fan. I'm a Giants fan, and we talk about sports every day. I don't get to watch as much of it as I used to, but I still keep up with it, certainly with the Kings.
When I say you're doing important stuff, I spoke to you last week, and you had just hopped out of a briefing about everything going on up in the Paradise area. And let me just reset real quick. I wanted to bring Bryan on, A, because I love him, and B, because Bryan can speak from a point of somebody on the ground. We hear so much information, much of it correct, some of it misinformation. Here's what we do know. Last week, so many of our audience members responded in phenomenal ways in trying to help everybody up in the Paradise area. And Bryan, you've been on the ground there for a while. What is the latest as you come out of everything this morning? Just the overview, if you could, on the situation, and is it getting better at all for the people who have been displaced?
My hope would be to say yes, and that's my answer. I will say, you mentioned briefings. We have briefings throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And the briefings that we have always begin with two things. The first thing is a briefing from the National Weather Service, because weather plays such a crucial role in not only what has happened, but we got to keep a close eye on these rains that are coming up later in this week. And the second briefing is, what are the unmet needs? What showers? Do we need food? Do we need clothing? Do we need whatever it is? We talk about the unmet needs, and we talk about how to then fix that problem. So the needs are great. I mean, these people that have suffered these kind of losses are going to be out for a while, and they're not going to have their homes, and they're not going to be able to get the comfort things that they've had for a while. So we've got to now take care of those needs and make sure that we're handling whatever it is that they need in whatever form that looks like.
And, there's so many different questions I can ask you and so many different needs, as you said, that need to be talked about. But let me ask you about the weather report. We hear rain is coming this week, and the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, my God, this is wonderful. It's going to help the firefighters, hopefully, in putting out this fire and clear the air, hopefully, a little bit as well. But is there, from your point of view and what you're trying to do, I would imagine rain also brings issues. And the positive, I would imagine, outweigh the negatives, Bryan, but that also brings with it, it's one thing to be intense and be displaced. It's another thing to be intense and be displaced when you have rain and when you have cold combined.
Exactly, and I'll give one word for you, Montecito. We saw what happened in Montecito, the L.A. area, Ventura County last year when we got too much rain in an area that had just had a tremendous burn. And it created mudslides and debris flows, and it really, hit, and then they got hit again when the rains came. That's what we don't need. The best case scenario is we get some light rain, like hard mist, just light rain scattered over a long period. What we do not need is 2-3 inches in a very short period of time, because then we could create flooding. There's a lot of bad stuff on the ground right now from all these homes that are burned. You've got household hazardous waste, you've got propane tanks, you've got paint cans. And we haven't been able to clean that up yet because we can't start that process until all the bodies are found. And the sad reality is they haven't yet. So there's a lot of bad stuff on the ground that we don't want getting into our water system. We just need some light rain to wet everything down to kick us officially out of fire season for the time being. And again, no flooding, no serious rain, no mudslides.
Bryan May of the Office of Emergency Services joining us right now on The Drive. And, Bryan, I want to go back to something you just said, and I don't want to get morbid here, but one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is so people could understand just how complicated and complex this situation is for you guys, for the firefighters, for the first responders on the ground. You mentioned that all of the people that have perished in this fire likely have not been found yet. And from what I understand, Bryan, I don't want to use the word complicates, but it does bring a different dimension to the way this is being handled. And what I mean by that, and you can expand, Bryan, is that you have to have respect for remains. There's nothing more important to family members than finding their lost loved ones. And that, of course, is going to, I would imagine, require you guys, and again, the firefighters and the clearers, to be very careful and have to adjust their approach to certain things because you have to be sensitive to that.
Absolutely. We've got people in the Paradise area, and I hate to use the word lucky, but for the few people whose homes didn't burn down, their homes are still standing. We can't even at this point let them back in their homes because all of that area is still closed off until we find. I mean, listen, there's over 1,000 people that are missing. We are hopeful that a lot of those have gone somewhere else and are staying with either family or they went to a hotel in Sacramento in some cases. But until we find those people, we can't let people back in. There's cars that are on the side of the road. We've got to search areas that we haven't thought about searching before with this many missing people. So it does create issues. Normally, we would already have begun the cleanup process, the removal of the paint cans and asbestos and propane tanks. And we just can't do that right now until we locate those bodies and make sure all the missing are found.
Bryan May with us. And Bryan, I saw the numbers last Friday from Butte County. The total capacity of the shelters, and this is as of Friday, by the way, I want to underline that. There were currently 10 shelters open, capacity of over 2,600, and the population at that time was about 860, meaning that gives you almost 2,000 beds available. Bryan, again, talking about the complication of this, we were talking about the difficulty, and I experienced this firsthand when I went up there. Bryan, I was up there for 2 hours, and as you and I talked about, I brought norovirus back with me and got my wife sick, and it was a very unfortunate weekend. I was fortunate because I was in a nice warm bed in a warm house with free access to bathrooms, etc., whereas these people are going through what I imagine is an unimaginable hell, either in tents or even if they're in shelters, and that creates a shelter issue as well. Again, I'll let you explain it, but having to not only have the humanitarian crisis of sheltering people, but also preventing an extra humanitarian crisis of having a massive norovirus outbreak.
As you found out personally firsthand, Dave, that norovirus spreads very quickly. It's incredibly contagious. So we have now set up separate shelters for those who either could be or are positive with the norovirus. It's a complete separate shelter. complete separate showers and sink facilities and medical staff and food completely separate for those who may or are infected so that we can keep the other population safe and prevent it from spreading. And when we mention shelters, there's also two different issues to consider here. Right now, it's very short-term sheltering, right? We've got evacuation centers. We could have up to 300, 400, 500 people in one shelter. That's working right now. That is not going to be the solution going long-term. So while we have plenty of beds right now in the short term, we are looking at the long-term. It's going to take a year or more for these people to rebuild homes. We've got to find a more permanent long-term solution as we go forward.
And talk to me too, Bryan, about you're dealing with victims of fire, people that are displaced, and that's obviously the number one priority. But the reality of the situation too is that you have almost an entire city of firefighters, of personnel, people such as yourself and your team. I would love for you to explain to people just the logistics in itself, not just of the displaced victims of the fire, but also the people coming to aid the fire, adding to that population. It just sounds like I don't know how you do it and how it isn't a logistical nightmare.
So at one point, we had over 9,400 firefighters fighting the fires in California, and many of those coming at 15 different states outside of California, all of the western states. We had as far away as Texas and South Dakota firefighters coming in. The number one goal is always for us, first responders, emergency managers, not to use available hotels. Let's save that. Let's use those for the evacuees, those who have lost their homes. So then it becomes incumbent upon us to build what's called a base camp. And we literally usually take over fairgrounds because it's a large area and it's owned by the county. A lot of the fire guys bring in their own small, just portable pop-up tents. We also bring in 18-wheelers that are nothing but lined bunk beds, just a place to sleep at night. We have to set up for, again, and over 9,000 firefighters on the campfire. I think it was roughly 5,000. We have to set up shelter. We have to set up food. We have to feed them not 3 times a day, but 6 times a day because you got crews working overnight as well. Showers, places to shave, a place we have to set up Wi-Fi. There has to be meeting rooms so that you can do all of the logistics, air operations, radio. There needs to be gas. There needs to be laundry service. All of that has to get set up within 24 to 48 hours. It is amazing to see how that comes together. You'll have an empty fairground one night or an empty park somewhere, and overnight it is set up into a city that serves 5,000 people with everything they could possibly need.
Bryan May, you'll remember him from TV so many years doing sports for ABC 10, now with the Office of Emergency Services joining us. And Bryan, just to wrap up, you have a disaster. You have an amazing outpouring of support from people who want to do great things. And then the media leaves, the fire gets put out, and there's going to be another disaster, unfortunately, somewhere in the state at some point. Would you just do your best, and I know this could be a 3-hour show in itself, but in a quick answer, walk us through, you and I talked about schools and so many kids being out of school and the need for supplies and schools themselves because they're all burnt down. This is just going to be a massive cleanup and rehabilitation that, as you said, isn't going to be a week or a month, but it's going to be years from now.
The goal, I think, for the Paradise Independent School District is to try and get kids back in by the first week of December. And trust me when I say that is a very ambitious timeline. They've got to bring in portable buildings. At one point last week on a briefing, they were asking for 100 portable buildings to be brought in. So you don't even have a building to have these kids in. They'd like to keep them in their classroom, whatever class you had before, try and keep classes together. That may or may not happen. But think about if you had to send your kid to school with nothing. They've got no pencils, no paper, no backpacks, no erasers, anything that you could need as you move forward. And so we are trying to make sure that these kids are going to have what they need when they go back to school. And the sad reality is these times are hard to see. The good reality is it truly brings out the best in people. And people, Dave, I don't mean to sound this patronizing, but it will be people like you who are willing to have a platform and use that platform to help other people. That's what is really just makes us and the job that we do so much easier because guys like you step in.
Well, buddy, let's both do the same thing then right now. And I know this, at least I think this isn't necessarily what you do, but for so many people that I'm seeing text and on social media right now, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? I saw the tweet from Butte County saying, "Hey, we're thank you so much. We're good on clothes and supplies, gift cards, money to organizations, etc." For those that are asking how they can help, Bryan, is there any advice you'd give them or anywhere you'd like to direct them?
Well, I mean, it's not always the most visual, but the motto really is cash is best, because there are logistical issues with storing large donations. So cash is best.
Sure.
Either through the American Red Cross. We've set up a website called wildfirerecovery.org, and on that there's a list for volunteers and donations. If you have time that you can volunteer, if you have services or skills, or if you'd like to make donations, you can go on there, and it's a trusted source. Everything that you put into that is going to go directly to the people who need it. So listen, if you do a school drive and you try and fill backpacks, that's fantastic. That's going to help these kids as they get back to school, and they're not realizing they're not going back until certainly after the Thanksgiving break and into December. But it's heartwarming to see so many people step up and help neighbors at this point in time in their time of need.
Well, inadvertently or advertently, I think, just pulled the lid off of what we were going to talk about next week. You and I talked off the air, but I think our next Do One Thing caravan is going to get behind the school supplies. I alluded to that last night on social media, and I'll be talking to you, and you'll be pointing me to the right people to make sure. We're going to do backpacks with school supplies, get as many as we can together down here, and then take them up sometime in December and try to help these kids out. Bryan, I love sports. I do it for a living, and I will be patronizing right back to you. You coming on, being a former sports guy, humbles and shames me a little bit with what you're doing, being away from your family, doing what you do every day. And I'll be the first to, you'd be the first to say, I'll be the second that you see what you see, and any inconveniences you're going through, I know you appreciate every day how lucky you have it compared to the people you're seeing all the time. But
I say that every night. I get to go home to a house. So,
Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Say hello to the family. You're doing good stuff, and we miss you around here, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. That's Bryan May with the Office of Emergency Services. He is a spokesman for them, and hopefully I know a lot of questions over the weekend, and still, and judging by your responses, still a lot of questions from people that want to help. We'll let you know in the upcoming days how you can help next month as well.
Hey, when we come back from this break,
Yeah.
we have breaking news on the NBA trade market.
Breaking news on the NBA trade market. Kyle Madson being right on track. We're back in 4 minutes with that and What's on Tap. Sports 1140 KHTK.
Here's What's on Tap.
All right, What's on Tap brought to you by
Breaking news.
Breaking news. When you need news that breaks, go nowhere than the Kevin Macedon Sports Desk. Kyle Madson, take it away.
ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting that the Wizards are signaling that they're willing to consider trade overtures on their entire roster, including John Wall and Bradley Beal, two players that they would not consider trading as recently as earlier this year.
So they're willing to consider trade overtures.
So they're willing to consider if a team walks up and says, hey, what about these two picks for John Wall? They might go,
I'll consider it.
They're willing to consider.
It's so funny when you get, we were talking about breaking apart journalism earlier.
Yeah.
It's so funny when you get a team source and how it has to be worded perfectly so players don't think they're saying, oh, we're going to trade everybody. That's how a team does it.
Yeah.
So tomorrow on the show, we'll probably spend some time not only on tonight's Kings Oklahoma City Thunder game, by the way, What's on Tap, 7 o'clock, 6:30 pregame right here on the Sporty 1140. We'll also talk about the Wizards are a team that many Kings fans have looked at as a team that could fill a glaring need at the 3 spot. So we'll talk about Otto Porter. We'll talk about Kelly Oubre. We'll talk about how the Wizards and Kings could do business with each other and whether or not Kings fans really want that. What would that mean? Because remember, if you put somebody in there, you got to take somebody out of there. Are you willing to do that and take on that cash? Also, What's on Tap tonight? Of course, Chiefs, Rams. Be a good sports night tonight. You got a Kings game. You got Monday Night Football. And you got 2 9-1 teams going at it as well. Eunice does a great job as always. Thanks to Bryan May in that last segment. For Kyle Madson, I'm Carmichael Dave. We got a giveaway right now, do we not?
Yeah, I'm giving away Kings tickets. Watch the Kings take on Utah Golden One Center on November 25th. Get more info at KHTK.com. All KHTK giveaways powered by RosevelleAutomall.com. Callers number 5 and number 8 for De'Aaron Fox and Bogdan.
5 and 8 right now. 339-1140. For Kyle Madson, I'm Carmichael Dave. Jim Rome is next. Sports 1140 KHTK. Bye-bye now.